Buy, sell or rent your property with Century 21 and you could win a brand new 2-bedroom apartment on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. Visit c21win.com.au for your chance to win.
Hello and welcome to Your Property Empire. I'm Chris Gray. On tonight's show, with the lowest interest rates on records, are most Australians making the most of the cheaper borrowing, or should they be doing something different? There's talk of more people undertaking renovations, but do they always add value? And with not long to go till the end of the year and plenty of competition at auction, is it worth paying a few more dollars now rather than waiting till next year? But first, auction conditions remain strong in many markets. For buyers wishing to purchase at auction, what preparation should they do to give themselves the best chance for success? Well, joining me tonight to give their opinions is Charles Tarbey, Chairman and owner of Century 21 Australasia, and Tom Panos, Head of Real Estate Advertising at News Corp. Good to see you have the blue team in the, or even the yellow team in the studio today.
I forgot to bring you
your pink jacket. We're going to be talking about that later on, Charles.
Damn.
Let's start off with the auctions.
Nicer when you wear it.
Not long to go now. What can people do?
Oh, for auctions?
Yep.
Oh, OK.
To prepare?
Well, you know, they've got to do the normal things, haven't they? They've got to make sure they get their loans in place. They've got to make sure they set their budgets. They've got to make sure they do their building reports, their pest reports. But what I would recommend to anybody who's really
We're talking about the buyers.
The buyers, yeah.
Buyers.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
You carry on, Charles.
His lead-in has just been really average today. So we're only 2 minutes in. I was thinking about this the other day when we were talking about auctioneers. One of the things that I try to do when I'm going to a property auction is to have a look at that auctioneer's performance weeks before. Follow the auctioneers around. If I can find out who the auctioneers are for that company, is to follow them around, because each of them has a different style. Some of them don't call properties on the market, some of them do, and so you can really watch what they do, so you can judge when you should be bidding and when you should be sitting back. That's a really important thing.
You're quite a devious man.
Oh no,
Well
I think it's just it's good preparation to find out what they're like. They all have very different styles. As an auctioneer, I mean, I would call it on the market years ago. Nowadays, it's a little bit different. And
what about you, Tom? If I'm a buyer at your auction, which I'm probably never going to be, how do I beat you? How do I beat the auction or beat the other buyers?
Well, firstly, Chris, I'm not going to sit at a TV channel and tell people the answer to that question, right?
But you know, like from your seminars, Tom, you know they won't follow up.
Right. So, look, Chris, as Charles is saying, it's changed a little bit, and I would rarely call the property on the market. And I do that for two reasons. The first reason is at the start of an auction, I say, ladies and gentlemen, please listen very carefully. Do not wait till you hear the words on the market. And I say that because a lot of people have a tendency to not want to bid till they hear it. So if 20 people come along and they say, I don't want to be the first bidder and I don't want to bid till we hear it on the market, actually no one's going to bid. We're just going to sit there.
That's right.
The second reason I don't usually call it on the market is that if you're a buyer that's bidding and you've heard it on the market $300,000 ago, you start having a psychological concept and story in your head, I'm paying over the top. So my preference is to actually not call it on the market. Having said that, I've got the privilege and the luxury of working in a marketplace in the inner west of Sydney where most properties sell, you know.
At the moment, yeah, you don't have to say much, do you?
Now, I've seen a lot of auctioneers or agents offer a free bottle of champagne or something like that to the first bidder to get them in. So if you want your Christmas presents, do you go around all the auctions just putting in the first bid just to get all your free bottles of champagne?
Well, they're not going to get Grange from us. Let's make it, you know. Good.
Don't even buy that for ourselves.
Now, what about on the vendor side? Is selling at auction the best way, do you think, or should you be looking at private trading?
Look, years ago when I was doing auctions, I'd be doing dozens of them every month, mostly in rooms to cater for the groups of officers at the time. You would find a variety of properties and you'd always be able to tell which ones were going to go and which ones were going to have difficulty. Of course, the inner west, as Tom was talking about, or in the high demand areas, it's definitely auction. You can't gauge a price anymore. Nobody can realistically put a price on a property, which is why the pricing range has caused so much grief over the years. But if you're in an area where auctions aren't predominantly done and there's a property going up for auction, there are 10 homes for sale in that same price category, scattered around the area. Why would you put yourself under the pressure of going to an auction? You go out and you get your valuation done, your pest report done, your building report done, and you turn up to an auction, and there's really not much happening there. You're better off just going around making offers on property. But in Tom's case, where he does most of his auctions, man, you've got to go to auction. If you don't go to auction, you're really doing a disservice to yourself. And very rarely do you find at this marketplace where agents are selling before auction. That's your first indication that things aren't right.
Yeah.
Tom, I'll ask you the same question. I know you've got a slight bias that you should put your property on the paper and you should use an auctioneer, especially in the inner west. But apart from that, should you always take it to auction?
No, not every property is suited to auction. On Charles's point, the things that affect whether a property should go to auction are the following. Geography. Are you in an area where you've got buyer demand stripping supply? So I would look at that. The second thing I would look at is the type of property. If you're in a development with 50 units on the market at the one time, it doesn't make logical sense. I mean, are developers that silly that they don't pick auction because they're not aware of it? They just know from all their years that they're not going to get 10 people fighting over the one property. So I would say the kind of property, the demand and supply equation in that marketplace, and having said that, it saddens me to see in marketplaces where there should be auction, every time I auction a property and it goes $100,000 over the reserve price, that's $100,000 that owner would have undersold their property if they used that old private treaty traditional method, you know, in a marketplace.
That's why I don't go to auction.
Yeah.
Yes, well, Chris, you act for the buyer.
If you're selling, you would, wouldn't
Exactly.
you? If you're selling, you would.
Yeah.
And there are agents out there quite some time spruiking against auctions. And you look at the last few years, Tom, and what you've been able to achieve for reserve prices. You can't imagine how much money people have lost because they didn't.
But at the same time, it doesn't always go through. So we had one at the weekend that we were following that didn't go through. And sometimes for those people that want a bird in the hand, so say if you bought your property for $500,000 and it's worth $1 million now, sure, go to auction and try and get 1.1. But if you've seen your dream property and that goes to auction the same day and you need $1 million guaranteed, would you go to auction and miss missing your dream home? Or take the guarantee where you're making 500 grand? So then it's not necessarily losing 100, because if you get 999, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So sometimes a good agent is one that says, don't go for gold, go for bronze, because that's what you need to get you over the line.
Well, and I think that's the secret, making sure that the agent you've got has got the savviness, the intelligence and the courage to help you make that call. Because Charles will know, there's a lot of real estate agents that will miss gold, silver and bronze.
Yeah, the whole thing.
And that's why the vendor, again, needs to trust the agent, because if they don't tell them they're true gold, they could get screwed.
Auctions in the last few years have brought so many people out of the woodwork, Chris. There are so many auctioneers that have come out of nowhere in the last few years that 3 years ago weren't even real estate agents, let alone auctioneers. And a lot of those now are recognising that the auction, there's not enough properties coming on. Some of them are looking for other jobs, some of them going back into general real estate in the marketplace. But so they come in and they just put a flag up and they let the process work. They don't understand the process enough to work it, and that's what we're talking about. They just don't get it sometimes.
We'll definitely continue this conversation later on. But a quick note, for this Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we've got the Property Buyer Expo in Sydney. So if you're interested in these conversations and want some other ideas on investing or buying your own home or even selling, it's a great place to learn more with lots of different experts sharing their thoughts and ideas. Now, tickets are normally $20, but as Your Property Empire viewers, you can get in for free. Simply go to, I think it's propertybuyershow.com.au. If I can find my notes, propertybuyerexpo.com.au. Put the code EMPIRE into the promo code box and you can get an email with your ticket for free. Anyway, now it's time to check out Tom's properties. We've got them in the studio, so we'll jump to you, Tom. Property number one.
Okay, 92 Victoria Road in Bellevue Hill, and it's a property that was advertised in the Wentworth Courier, and it's got interest at around $7 million. And here's a property that is going to auction, and this is the ideal property to go to auction, and the reason why is it's hard to get comparable sales of a similar home. It's hard to actually value this property. So what agents do is actually just generate all the interest there and get buyers to determine it by competition. Why we picked this property is, yes, obviously it was in the Wentworth Courier, and
start,
we always like to support those properties that are well marketed. But I also want to tell you, at 975 square metres of land in Bellevue Hill, first time offered, landmark grand character family home. I think, you know, I won't talk about the bedrooms. I mean, it's a big house, 4 to 5 bedroom, but it's only moments to the local schools, Bellevue Hill, Double Bay and Bondi Junction. So 31st of October is the auction date.
And if Bellevue Hill's good enough for the Packers, it should be right for most other people, you would have thought.
You would think they are a good benchmark, and if they like to live in that area, you would expect that anyone watching this TV show should follow. Success leaves clues, as they say.
Exactly. Now, we'll actually pull up the photo of property number 2, which was actually property 1 last week. Now, this was a unique one that sold well above auction, wasn't it?
Well, this is an interesting property because this highlights our conversation. It was Cardigan Street, Stanmore.
Yep.
This property was featured on the show last week, and as it's up there with our viewers, here's a great case study. This property got sold 3 years ago with very little work done to it, and got sold for around $1 million more 3 years later. And this goes to show the strength of the market. It goes to show that when you buy a kind of property... I mean, Charles, Chris, look at the mathematics. That's 33% growth a year in the inner west of Stanmore without having a major renovation done. Quite extraordinary.
And how many people 3 years ago, or for the last 3 years, have been saying, oh, the market's peaked, I'm going to wait, I'm going to buy tomorrow, it's going to go cheaper and the market's going to go downhill?
We've all been talking a little bit like that, particularly a year ago. You started thinking, you know, no, it's got to stop down, it's got to slow down and so on, but none of us predicted the interest rates were going to keep going down, and I think that was part of the issue.
But I reckon when these people sell in a few years' time, Tom, they'll be having an extra profit as well, and they'll be thinking, thank God we got it, even if we paid $1 million more, because we've still made a profit.
One thing that I always see is homes that have had strong bidding when they're buying have strong bidding when they're being sold. Some properties have just got that factor that attracts buyers. So the buyer that probably bought this may have paid a little bit more than what they hoped. The buyer that sold this may have paid a little bit more than they hoped 3 years ago. But at $1 million more approximately in 3 years... and
Tax-free.
Tax-free. Australia gives you tax-free profits on the family home.
Tax-free. You've got to be happy with tax-free. Anyway, after the break, we'll be taking a look at a viewer dilemma and getting some real estate advice on what options to take. We'll be back soon.
Want to explore the world? The journey begins at Woolworths. A whole world of nations on 56 special flip cards and stickers. Get a pack for the kids with every $20 you spend. So start collecting and bring the world to life. Woolworths World Explorers. That's cute. That's why I pick Woolies.
Dave needs golf stuff quick. At golfbox.com.au, he can click, shop and play. Thanks to free Air Express delivery Australia-wide. Get your golf stuff super fast at golfbox.com.au.
Spring is the season to discover, to stand out and look your best. And with Land Rover's 2016 model year spring run out, now you can. Receive up to $4,000 worth of complimentary extras on Range Rover Sport, Discovery Sport and Range Rover Evoque. An offer this good won't last long, so get in quick and visit your local Land Rover dealer today, while stocks last.
Our world moves ever faster, and wonders never stop. Help arise before disaster, and phones can save a crop. Mighty drills know when to dig before the markets do. Brilliant minds can make it big with smart advice to see them through. You can make the world your office. Know when packages arrive. Tailor what your network offers. Use machines to stay alive. You can keep track of your fleet, help your city run on time, do things better on the beat, protect yourself from cybercrime. For technology is wondrous. It can take you far and wide. It creates a future boundless, helps your business make bold strides. In global markets or down under, we'll be there to help you strive. And together, we'll do wonders. For together, we can thrive.
It's the third and final presidential debate. After last week's encounter, who knows what to expect?
You described kissing women without consent.
No, I didn't say that.
That is wrong.
Donald Trump's campaign is in deep trouble.
Absolutely false.
Can he claw his way back into the race?
Let's beat this crook.
Will Hillary Clinton try for a knockout blow or play it safe?
We will rise to the challenge.
Watch the debate live with full analysis from our team of experts Thursday on Sky News Live.
Support for One Nation has surged since the election. The PC police are using 18C to go after Bill Leak. Shorten finds a spot in the Senate for an old mate at the HSU. And it's always fun when Ross Cameron starts talking Trump.
Catastrophically, stupidly bad.
See you tonight.
Welcome back to Your Property Empire. Well, our viewer dilemma of the week came in from a lady called Lisa in Melbourne, and she asked, I know there's only a few more weeks of properties coming on the market before Christmas, and I'm worried that if I don't buy this year, then I may not be able to afford it next year when the market opens again. Is it worth paying slightly more at auction now just to get a foot on the ladder? Now, Tom, this is probably the best question for you to start with. Given that most properties generally have a 4 to 5 week campaign, how many more weeks have we actually got of properties coming on the market?
Okay, well, from my own schedule, I'm booking auctions now for November 19, I think is the Saturday. There's November 26, then we move into December 3. So we're talking, there's still 3 to 4 weeks of people talking to vendors about putting their properties on the market. But I will say to Lisa, if you're watching, December is a great month to be a buyer in the marketplace, because if you look at the graphs, you'll see that property that's been unsold, vendors want to bring closure to their decisions. They want to go away before their lawyers close their offers for a few weeks, and sometimes you can throw in an offer. It might not be what the vendor wants, but they say, we want to be sold by Christmas time. We just want the thing sold. So hang in there.
And even the 23rd or the 24th, depending on which day it is, I mean, it's hard to get solicitors on Christmas Eve, but people do, because otherwise they might not sell till February or March.
Chris, the house I live in, I signed a contract on the 24th of December at 5 p.m. So, and I can tell you...
And you got a deal?
Actually, I don't think I did.
So
I think
you
I
were
paid
desperate.
top dollar.
Bet you didn't, Tom, because look at the way the market's gone. Look,
Yeah.
3 years later.
Well, you know what it's like. I thought I paid top dollar, but everything looks cheap when you look backwards.
Yes,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Now, obviously, Lisa sounds as if she's reasonably educated, because she's talking about, well...
Because she wrote to you. Yeah, that's nice.
What is the, I guess, the factual money for buying this, and what's the emotional money? Is it worth paying 5 or 10 grand more? How many buyers do you think are actually educated when it comes to actually bidding or putting a price?
Yeah, look, the biggest issue is that a lot of people rush and they see it as a short-term proposition. That's the biggest issue. Most people can be very educated now in real estate because of what's available to them at any point in time, where there's dozens of real estate shows, real estate radio shows, the ability to access information. So I don't think they're uneducated. I just think that most people think if I pay too much now, they don't think about the long term. You know, I've been in my house for 32 years this year, and I would not have thought I'd be there for that long. But, and when I bought it for $200,000, I thought I paid too much when you think about it. So I think you've got to look at the long term. If Lisa wants to pay a little bit more now and she's going to stay for a while, it doesn't really matter over a period of time. It doesn't really matter.
Now, Tom, a lot of things can change between the market closing in December and opening in kind of January or February, and sometimes there can be dramatic differences, positive or negative. Any thoughts on how the market might open?
Yeah, generally speaking, what you'll find is that the occasional vendor that hits the market in January can get good money because there's not a lot of property on the market. And what you actually have is there's a group of people that aren't necessarily overseas holidaying. They take their time off, and people make New Year's resolutions. They want to join the gym. They say, I'm going to buy real estate. And if you're on the market in isolation as a vendor in January, you might get top dollar. In February, more stuff comes on. So I know we're talking about a 60, 70-day period, but in summary, late December, good to be a buyer in the marketplace. early January, good to be a seller in the marketplace because there's not much on. But then what you'll find is February, March, April, all usually after Australia Day, the stock comes on. There's a heap of property that hits the market. News Corp and realestate.com start getting their revenues coming in because you've got all the real estate agents that are coming back after Australia Day. The Australian Open in Melbourne is finished. All the holidays are over. People have put on 3 kilos of weight. Real estate's back to normal again. And
I'm feeling depressed. You get me depressed, Tom.
Charles, you normally only put on 1 kilo of weight.
And that's just usually in red wine. This is a time for discretionary sellers. Discretionary spending kicks in now in the holiday season. So all your coastal areas, people buy on a whim. So if you're thinking about selling and you're in a coastal area, this is a time to sell. Get your property prepared for sale. You'd be quite amazed at how many people travel on holidays and they fall in love with regions. Good time for that market as well.
So, Lisa, hopefully you got a few ideas from that. But for more ideas on investing in property, you can always download a copy of my book for free. You can pretend it's a Christmas present and give it to your relatives. Just go to yourempire.com.au. And if you'd like our opinion on your strategy or situation, send us some brief details to chris@yourempire.com.au. But while we're doing a bit of promo, let's talk about pink jackets.
Oh, yes, I forgot to bring yours, I mentioned earlier on.
I'll wear it next week.
Thanks, I'll bring it through. This is a fantastic time for us. We spend the entire October right across Australia and New Zealand. Everything changes pink, cars change pink, our signage changes, shop fronts change, pink jackets, which I've got ready for you to wear. We hold all sorts of events, and the franchise owners, salespeople, are out and about. You see them on Facebook at the moment. It's a massive campaign, and we try to raise between 150,000 and 200,000 in the space of that 4 weeks. So if you see somebody walking around, a pink jacket on, they're out there in the charity.
So it's not Mardi Gras. Support your local Century 21 office and give some money to charity if you can.
He's pushing it, isn't he? He's pushing it. I think Mardi Gras when?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, right.
No one wants to comment,
Yes,
but I'll tell you, it's March.
Thanks very much.
Right, OK. It's March.
Tom's a legend in that area too.
Exactly. Moving on, let's have a look at the auction clearance rates.
Yeah, pretty good again, 77.9% across the nation, because this time last year they were 69.3%. So, Tom, I found it really interesting that Sydney's clearance rate was 83.3%. For the weekend, but this time last year was 66.6 on almost exactly the same weekend, like give a day. So I'm not quite sure what was happening this time last year. Melbourne came in at 78.5, but the winner, again, not Sydney, Canberra. Now, it's the third week in a row that Canberra has led the marketplace, 83.9% clearance rates for Canberra.
And homes advertised for sale?
2.07% here in Australia and 15.3% in New Zealand. Not in Auckland where they need it, but in many of the surrounding areas. That's been moving so.
Wonderful. And then on to rent price movements.
Yeah, they haven't moved a lot, 0.24% up over this time last week. The best performing capital city was Sydney at 0.55. The worst performing capital city, again, 4 weeks in a row, was Darwin at negative 1.44%. So that's 3 weeks in a row.
And finally, just the vacancy rates.
Excellent Sydney, 1.85, 2.58 for Melbourne. Perth, still sitting at a tough end, 9.54, which that's really high. That's giving us an average of 4.65 for those three capital cities. But again, something has to trend the other way in Perth soon.
Yeah, so interesting time. Not too long in the market. Tom, any special events in the next month or two that people need to be worried about or could be positive on the market?
Now, there's obviously people pay attention to interest rate decisions, but apart from that, I'm going to say it's smooth sailing. Buyers are out there, sellers are maximising. The only thing is, everyone hopes there were more listings on the market than what there has been. There's been an excessive shortage. CoreLogic RP data confirm it. Realestate.com confirm it. So that's probably what's driving high clearance rates when you look at those various regions.
And what are you finding from your agents? Because I guess there's so many mixed messages in your graphs about, I guess, what's happening in different areas of the market. Do you have half your agents that are absolutely loving it and half that are
absolutely.
struggling?
I was doing a talk for REWA in Perth a couple of Fridays ago, and at the end of my presentation I said to the agents in the room, there are about 1,000 agents, I said, you guys are leading the real estate change in Australia, because they are. I said, so Get off your backsides, get it right, because the rest of the country is going to be watching what you do in this correction mode that they're going through. And they are seriously in a correction mode, very heavy correction mode.
Certainly tough. And obviously for our viewers out there, education is the key with these things. There's things like the Property Expo, whole range of speakers, then definitely worth getting along to.
Or are you going, Tom? Are you invited as a speaker?
I'm not invited as a speaker, but I tell you what, I'm always interested in going in. Anything that I can get information, even if it means that I take that information and then I reproduce it myself, I'll come along for that.
And if you can get in for free as well, even so much the better.
Just type in Empire, we can get in for free.
Charles Tarbey, Century 21, Tom Paranos. Great to have my two friendly guests here, all in the studio together. Thanks for joining us this evening. We'll be back next week in pink jackets. Until then, I'm Chris Gray. Good night.
The information featured in this program is general in nature and therefore should not be relied upon. Guests appearing on the program may have commercial arrangements with some of the companies mentioned. Before making any investment, insurance or financial planning decisions, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you.